Hey all, thanks for checking out the video. It's been a few weeks since the launch of the open beta, and I've noticed many players still struggling with some pretty important gameplay tactics and lesser explained mechanics. So today I'm going to be giving 6 pretty quick but valuable tips that will definitely help you to get better and win more games, even if you start incorporating just half of them. All the gameplay you see in the background was taken straight from my live streams, so if you want to check those out, I'd love to have you. Link and schedule in the description. Now let's get into it. Starting out with tip number 1, we have one of the most important tips to help you die less and increase your awareness to a level Gandhi would be jealous of, and that is to make a habit of always paying attention to your map. This may be the largest skill separating gold players from platinum and up, as even if your gameplay is mechanically sound, if you don't have good awareness to avoid ganks, it really won't matter. To be honest, this is something even I struggle with from time to time, especially if I'm fighting someone. But typically, that's when you're most likely to get ganked, so make a habit of checking that map every few seconds. Not only will it help keep you alive, but it will help you make better decisions, like knowing if you can expect help from teammates, or if you're all alone with no one beside you. If they're junglers on the other side of the map, you're a lot safer to go dive that offlaner and secure the kill if you need to, because you won't have to worry about bro popping his head out to ruin your day. Same with objectives. If it's 10 minutes into the game and you see their jungler ganking offlane, ping everyone to group up and attack Fangtooth, assuming your jungler isn't doing the same thing. Knowing when to move and to make plays is very important, and knowing where all your opponents are is basically a cheat code to knowing how safe your Leroy Jenkins impersonation will be. This will be a good segue into tip number 2, which is sort of in relation to map awareness, but that's going to be vision control. Wards are very important because when placed in the right spot, they'll alert you of any potential ganks about to happen, giving you time to run away. Since the jungler's biggest advantage is the element of surprise, if you can buy yourself an extra few seconds to run away, very often it's the difference between life and death. On screen are some of the more popular warding spots on the map, so you can get a good idea of where to place them and where to expect them as a jungler. When the enemy walks within range of a friendly ward, you'll hear a sound, and the hero's icon will appear where they are in relation to the center of the ward. All teammates, no matter where they are on the map, will be able to see and hear this ping, so make sure you always have an ear out and check the map whenever they go off, and make a mental note of who and where they are. You can also try placing your wards in some lesser known spots like these, which are typically a little more dangerous and specific, but will give you an idea of where and what they're up to. Vision is one of the most important aspects of this game, and having superior map vision by placing wards in certain choke points can make you a nearly unstoppable force with good game sense. A few bonus tips in this category to help you be more efficient are once the support role evolves their crest, they'll be able to have an upgraded ward that can reveal any enemy wards within its area. Wraith also has the ability to destroy other wards with his passive, which is very helpful once he gets to level 6. Being able to destroy enemy wards is a bonus not only because your team now has the vision advantage, but the enemy is now in the dark about that area of the map as well. And moving on to tip number 3, we have communication and the pinging system. While the in-game pinging system isn't perfect by any means, and the developers have stated they're changing it in the future, it's still a very effective tool to help both you and your team. Personally, one of the most frustrating parts about the game for me comes when I play in the jungle, where pinging and actually listening to them is arguably the most important. Your jungler is the one who should call all the shots and when to make plays for objectives. So I can't count how many times I've gotten a perfect gank and I ping everyone to group up and attack Fangtooth, but literally no one comes to help out. Even after pinging several times, people just seem to be unaware of my desperate cries for help. So this goes for the people on the receiving end of pings. Always pay attention to what your team is saying, as it very well could save your life or help you get a lead by coordinating a gank with someone. I'm not going to go over what each ping is, but just spend a minute and go through them, and after a couple handfuls of games, it will become muscle memory and you'll be a lot more valuable to your team by using them. Communication helps in so many aspects of this game, it cannot be undervalued. So make sure if you're coming to gank or see an enemy coming to gank, let your team know, and please pay attention to them at all times. Even if you're just going back to the fountain, let everybody know. So many times I'll go to gank somebody and die both because I wasn't aware enough, but also because my teammate didn't let me know he decided to back instead of trying to help. Coming in at tip number 4, we have always stay positive and avoid being a toxic asshole. Look, I get it. The game is very competitive and it's not fun getting rolled because dual lane got dunked on or jungler diff or insert X excuse here. But I never once in 1,000 games have seen anyone blame themselves for a loss. 100% of the time, it's always someone else's fault, and while some of the times it is, there's always things that we can do better in a match to help the outcome. Some games that may not be the case, and literally every single lane gets completely rolled, but you can still take those as a learning experience. Plus, typically those games are a result of things like not contesting the objectives or picking bad fights. But keeping a positive attitude and not flaming your teammates goes a long way in coming back from a bad start. Personally, I've become mostly numb to the single-digit IQ peak intellectuals that want to flame, so I keep my chat on, but you can turn it off if it helps you focus more. This won't stop some angry children from alt F4ing because you didn't teleport across the map to help them after they ignored the 3 ward alerts and 5 enemy missing pings and still got ganked because they were pushed up to the enemy T2. At the end of the day, you're getting mad over pixels on a monitor, and we play video games to have fun, and when you let your mentals get in the way of that, it's not healthy for anyone and ruins many experiences. The game isn't over until it's over, and we all make mistakes and plays we shouldn't have all the time. That's why Masters rank has 0.01% of the player base. Those are the only motherfuckers who don't make those mistakes. Which, speaking of Masters, tip number 5 is aimed mostly at new players who are still getting their feet wet with how everything works, but that is to pick a hero for each role and master that hero before trying any other ones. Each hero in Predecessor is very different and unique from one another and usually play very differently. This can add a lot of confusion for new players, so I highly recommend picking just one hero, but most importantly, in every role. I'll explain why that's important later, but don't be that guy who queues up and 50-50 role challenges someone because, I can only play offlane, or some other weak excuse. If you limit yourself to just a single role or a single hero, it will seriously hinder your ability to have fun and enjoy this game for what it is, in my opinion. Spreading out and diversifying your play will immediately help you start winning more games because you know how your hero works, what they synergize well with, and you're comfortable in their shoes. If you have a go-to hero in every role, no matter what everyone else picks in the pre-game lobby, you'll be ready and comfortable with whatever you end up having to play. Another important part about this is know what your hero's responsibilities are. I made a video detailing each role's responsibilities, so if you want to check that out, link is in the description as well. But it's important to know what your hero is good at and what their role is on the team. Using Seraph in the jungle, for example, will not demand the same style of gameplay as using something like Rampage. If you're a support, make sure you're focusing on supporting. Say if you're a Muriel, use your shield strategically to help your team in the middle of a fight, and don't try and get up close and personal, just do your best to use your utility and keep your team alive. If you're supporting with someone like Richter or Steel who's more tanky, do the opposite. Get up in their face and smash the fuck out of them, but be smart about it. Basically just know what your hero is suited for and play them to their strengths. Then moving on to the last tip for this video, number 6, we have considering a good team composition. This is something that most new players probably don't think about for a while, but is very important to helping you win more games. Like I said before, every hero is different, and some will synergize well, while others not so much. An average, decent-looking team composition would look something like Grux offlane, Quang jungle, Morgish mid lane, and Decker Drongo in the duo lane. Some heroes can play multiple roles, but this is just an example. It's important to consider the damage type of your hero so you don't stack too much of one damage type, aka magical or physical. If you have 4 or 5 heroes dealing physical damage, all the enemy has to do is stack a bunch of physical armor and your job becomes a lot harder. So if you're last pick and you want to go Shinbi offlane, but your jungler picks Countess, it would be a huge detriment to lock in Shinbi because they're both magical assassin type heroes. Instead, take one for the team and change over to someone with physical damage so you have a more diversified team comp. It's also important to have CC, so if you've been playing for a while, you've probably heard about the CC meta. Rampage, Richter, Steel, and Sevarog are at the top of this list in terms of pro picks, usually seeing a combination of 3 of the 4 in most games being picked in the offlane, jungle, and support roles. If you're new though, and you're not comfortable with these heroes yet, just let your team know and pick who you're comfortable with. It would still usually benefit you to know your hero more than having a perfect team comp. So that brings us to the end of this video. I did have a few more tips, but I didn't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to add them into another one in the future, so if you like this one, stay tuned for that. If you keep these tips in the back of your mind going into your next couple games, I promise you'll see a significant increase in the amount of games you win. If you did find this helpful, I'd appreciate the typical YouTube stuff. Liking and subscribing is basically directly fueling my motivation to keep making these videos, so it goes a long way. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.